Здравствуйте, меня зовут Максим. Третий год подряд я успешно открываю конференцию MageCONF'. Мне очень приятно, в этом году это просто здорово. Мы побили все рекорды, у нас будет порядка 600 человек. Огромное вам спасибо. Я буду очень-очень быстро, 2-3 организационных предложения, чтобы не отвлекать от технических тем конференции. Во-первых, ребята, спасибо большое, что вы пришли. У вас есть чудные бейджики, на которых есть волшебная карта, мы читаем фидбэки, можем потом сказать, что вам несколько сложно ориентироваться на местности. Не знаю, мы пытались сделать цветную карту, надеюсь, вы разберетесь с буквами. Трекинг, это где мы сейчас находимся, за стеной, ближе к лифтам, есть еще трек B и C. На всех этих треках будут весь день проходить презентации, выбирать все темы волшебные, очень-очень интересные. На 4-м этаже по стрелочкам либо по лестнице, либо на лифте можно спуститься, там будут проходить воркшопы, весь день, опять же, технически интересные, если кто-то хочет пообщаться поближе с специалистами Magento по конкретным темам, это то самое место, где можно будет это сделать. Sorry, София.
Hi everyone, my name is Max, and it's been the third year we have MageCONF. This year is just amazing. We're very happy to welcome you all here. You all got the badges, yes, the orange ones. Currently wearing track A, but in case you want to visit tracks B and C, they're just in the adjacent halls, and you can just follow the arrows if you want to visit workshops and just communicate with the guys, with our professionals. Enjoy the day, enjoy the coffee breaks, and welcome.
Для наших гостей, которые не говорят на украинском и русском языках, у нас опять же на треке A, все треки будут на английском языке, все остальные на данном этапе на русском или на украинском. Трек A полностью английский, поэтому придется вот таким образом разбираться.
Track A is English only. For those speakers who do not speak Russian and Ukrainian, so in case you want to visit the other ones, feel free, but here all the presentations will be in English.
На протяжении дня вы увидите много людей в отличных красивых оранжевых футболках, они называются координаторы хаоса, я не знаю, почему они называют такое мероприятие, но они ответят на любые ваши вопросы, проблемы, потерялись, где туалет, где мой ребенок, и тут только что было $1000 перечислено, поэтому они тоже нам помогут, обращайтесь.
People wearing these orange t-shirts saying caster coordinator will be helping you through the day, so in case you're lost, so you can't find laboratory or any other places, just feel free to approach us and we'll help you.
И так как я уже задержался, не хочется больше оттягивать. Дамы и господа, к вашему вниманию, Джейсон Гусли, синьор вице-президент продуктной технологии Magento, тот человек, который точно знает, что с нами будет дальше. Спасибо.
Welcome, Jason Busley, Senior Vice President.
Good morning. Good morning. MageCONF 2018. What an absolutely incredible turnout. I hope we've got over 600 folks in the house. Absolutely incredible. I am absolutely thrilled to be back in Kyiv, the birthplace of Magento. We've got a tremendous amount to talk about today. But I want to stop and just take a second to give you guys a couple of pointers on how to take advantage of what we're doing today. These community meetups, these opportunities for us to come together, they're really special. And as you look around the room today, please take a second. Look at all who's here. Everybody in this room is a preeminent expert in commerce, and not just in Kiev, Ukraine, not just in Europe, but in the world. You're talking about the most important and the brightest people that you will ever talk to. So my encouragement to you is please come into this with a very inclusive and conversational attitude. You're going to learn more from each other than you'll ever learn from what we have to say here up on stage. So I'm super glad that you're here. Thanks for taking the time. And we're going to go through a pretty quick agenda. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this new company name you see up on the slide. We've got Magento Adobe Company. Let's figure out what that means. There's a lot of changes in store. A lot of things that I think are going to be very, very important for this community. And part of what I'm going to do is talk through how the Adobe acquisition is modifying the overall Magento strategy while leaving Magento very much whole at its core. So at the end of my little presentation, you're going to get to see the star of the show, and I'll bring Max up who can tell you the incredible journey of community engineering and exactly what we've done to transform Magento from a distribution model of open source to a contribution model of open source. So we'll jump right in. There is a lot to cover. I have a clicker I'm going to use. So let's start talking about what does this acquisition mean, right? This is a combination of literal giants. So Adobe is the undisputed leader in content creation and content delivery. Magento, the #1 commerce platform in the universe. And when you put these two things together, it is something absolutely special. The opportunity in front of us is nothing short of startling. We've got a tremendous capability between these two products, and I can't wait to share a little bit more about what we're doing here. All of this is our journey to make every moment personable and to make every experience shoppable. So let's talk a little bit about how we're already doing that. Magento 2.3 releases this month. I'm told from reliable sources it will be code complete next week. and then just kind of waiting on product marketing to get it out into the market. So Magento 2.3 is a huge release. It is by far our best release, and I hope that you guys have all seen that our process of releasing software has improved significantly over the course of really the last 18 months. And we've got Matt Zimmerman and his team to thank for all of that as we've kind of moved into a much more mature process. So let me tell you a little bit about what's coming in 2.3. You've probably heard some of this before, but with the introduction of things like Google and Amazon, we're giving merchants and developers more opportunities to take advantage of new channels for commerce. We've got Page Builder, which is the most advanced content management system in a commerce platform in the world, and it's absolutely going to blow your mind the way that it actually takes the ability to make changes to your website, including layout changes and content changes, and puts that in the hands of marketers, non-technical folks. We've got high conversion mobile experiences. We've heard a lot about PWA over the years. So Progressive Web Applications and our Progressive Web Applications Studio unlocks new capabilities, and it's really tapping into the brave new world of mobile application delivery. In addition to our studio, we've got a PWA theme called Vinia that'll allow everybody in this room to kind of kickstart your PWA efforts. The same way that you base your current themes off of Luma, we're looking forward to you basing the new themes off of Vinia and taking full advantage of Progressive Web Applications. We've streamlined payment and risk with our Magento Payments product, making it very easy to go straight out of the box and begin conducting commerce, reducing friction for merchants, and again, making it easier to use, more accessible for everybody. Our community has been incredibly hard at work over the last 2 years, but a lot of that's manifesting itself in our Magento 2.3 release. So you're going to hear a little bit about multi-source inventory. The number 3 most requested feature in Magento for a number of years, finally coming to the product. You're going to hear about bulk APIs and asynchronous APIs, incredible advancements in security with things like two-factor authentication, and then this mobile optimization package that takes over 15 SIs, a number of PayPal and high conversion in terms of our partners, as well as the broader community, to really go and fill that in-commerce gap. And then we're finally starting to unify the behavioral data that you get from things like Adobe Analytics and the transactional data that you get from Magento Commerce. And when you bring those things together, you really truly do start to get a 360-degree view of the customer. And so we're extremely proud of the work that's gone into 2.3. Look for it very, very soon. If you're not in the beta already, go get in the beta. It's absolutely important that you get a good understanding of what's coming. 2.3 does have some breaking changes in it. I think Matt has a session later today where we'll talk you through a little bit about how important it is for you to get in front of those breaking changes and understand what's moving in a 2.3 release. So these are ways that we're already aligned with the overall Magento vision, right? Going back to, how do we get all of these moments to be shoppable moments? And the reason that we do that is because we found overwhelmingly that people buy experiences, not just products. And they expect those experiences to stretch the entire customer journey, all the way from awareness, where you say, I have a problem, into the consideration phase, where you're trying to figure out what product helps me solve that problem. Conversion, which is ultimately the frictionless experience of getting that product into your customer's hands. And then one of the most important areas is looking at how we integrate into the overall Adobe experience. And so we are now a first-class citizen of the Adobe Experience Cloud, joining industry greats like the Adobe Ad Cloud, the Adobe Marketing Cloud, and the Adobe Analytics Cloud. So you bring all of those things together, and you finally have a one-stop shop for conducting everything from SMB commerce all the way to enterprise commerce, and owning that customer journey all the way through, everywhere from awareness to the post-sale. And we do that because customers are more demanding than ever. And I believe I have said this literally every time that I get on stage in front of an audience, that customers are demanding more. They're demanding more than they were last year, and they're demanding than they were more last month. They expect things to be easy and immediate. They expect time to value to be incredibly quick. They want every experience to be personalized, to be relevant, and to be curated for their needs. And of course, they want to do that on every single device available. So you think not just desktops, not just laptops, not just mobile devices and tablets, but the entire Internet of Things. Think about wearables, think about smart speakers. We're now getting to a place where almost every speaker sold now has voice capability. And that allows things like transactional, conversational commerce to be a reality. So customer expectations always going through the roof. And how does Magento play a role in eliminating some of that complexity so that you get to a conversion experience that is truly seamless, that resonates directly with the shopper, and provides them that frictionless checkout that they're looking for? Well, when you look at this, I think this diagram actually underrepresents the complexity of commerce. And I'm sure all of you know that have implemented a Magento store, just how much goes into making sure that all the integrations are right, that your inventory control systems are correct, that all of your back office systems are working exactly as intended. And the end result of all of that hard work should be a shopping experience that is very, very easy to use, that's intuitive, and that drives value at every turn. So this is that customer journey I was talking about. One of the great things about our combination with Adobe is that we're now able to participate in literally every step of this customer journey. Going all the way from awareness, where we can use products like the Adobe Creative Cloud, Adobe Analytics, and Adobe Ad Cloud to drive discovery, all the way through to post-sales support, which is one of the most underrated but most important parts of that customer journey. If you don't invest in post-sales support, you end up with a one-time sale. And no merchant wants a one-time sale. I mean, we'll take it if we can get it. But the idea is that you want to create high lifetime value customers with repeated conversion opportunities. And the only way to do that is to take incredibly good care of your customer in that last step of the journey. And so Magento plays a role in a lot of these, but Adobe as a suite now covers every single one of them. So you think about Magento's capabilities being primarily around consideration, conversion, and support, and how do we get that into the overall ecosystem? Well, fortunately, I have the benefit, one of the other benefits of being with Adobe is you get some great graphic designers that can create these incredibly looking slides that tell a pretty complex story. So as Magento evolves, our future is very much about modularity. And you'll hear me talk a little bit more about this as we go into kind of the evolved architecture of commerce and what we're doing next. But when you look at how these pieces play together, we have to operate in a headless environment. We have to operate in hybrid environments where there are multiple CMSs in use. And we have to operate in a full experience environment where we see the front end to the Adobe Experience Manager product. And we'll do all of this with our microservice layer integration, adaptable commerce layers, allowing us to tap into things like the cloud, the advertising cloud, the marketing cloud, and the analytics cloud. And all of this is only possible because we have this incredible product at our disposal called Adobe Sensei. Adobe Sensei is our artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning product that actually drives value into all of our cloud offerings. And when you think about the volume of data that we're bringing together, I mean, the transactional data from Magento alone, over hundreds of millions of data points. And then you combine that with the behavioral data from Adobe, where they've got 500 trillion data points of measurements of how customers interact on site. And suddenly you're able to get insights that you never had access to before. And we're going to see merchants start to optimize on things like lifetime value, expected lifetime value, propensity to buy. And Sensei doesn't just extend to how we do things like A/B and multivariate testing, product recommendations, personalization, the things that you normally think about. But imagine what we can unlock when we're using Adobe Sensei to help us do merchandising recommendations, to do dynamic audience creation, and to really drive things like pricing suggestions and dynamic prices. So Adobe Sensei is going to be the core of all of this. We've got to find a way to tap into it. And we're going to have to get there with a new architecture. And this is not a Magento 3 announcement. We are going to iteratively arrive at this new architecture. So I am anxious to show you how we're going to get there. And we're now run out of the Adobe design slides. So welcome to my design. Not the prettiest, but and probably even Anton Krill doesn't like this slide. But I want to share where we are today. I think it's really important that we take a baseline of exactly where we are, where Magento Commerce is right now, where its weaknesses are. And I want you to know that everybody at Magento recognizes these weaknesses, and we're all arrayed against going to tackle this. Now, I show this slide, and I just said Magento is the most popular and capable commerce platform in the world, and it is. But there's always room to improve, and we can always move the needle further. So when you think about our current state, right, we're a bit of a monolith, right? That's got all kinds of implications for how we're going to go and make changes, right? We've got some notions of modularity that have been largely unfulfilled. We've got limited APIs that actually, encourage people who are customizing and integrating our software to do things that may be a little bit unnatural, modify our core classes, go in and override some methods. And it's great because you have that flexibility. What's terrible about that is it takes you off the upgrade path. And so all of the good features and security benefits and performance enhancement that Matt and his team work on become harder and harder to adapt because we don't have a very clean extensibility model. So expect some changes there. We have principles of service contracts in some places. They're applied a little bit inconsistently. You're going to start to see a very rational and very deliberate track towards making those service contracts a reality. We've got the ability to only shard a few of our databases, right? If you've got performance implications, there's only a handful of places in the Magento monolith that you can actually go out and shard your database to get as much performance as possible. We're going to eliminate that hurdle as well. And then we still use private methods in our software way more than we should, right? We have to eat our own dog food. Part of that, you'll see in 2.2, I think we decreased our overall private API usage by about 80%. Still work to do there. 2.3 moves that needle even further. But the end state here is that we get to a place where we are absolutely using 100% of the APIs that we make available to everybody else to do everything that we do within the software. When you're in a monolith, you have a challenge with scale. You really only got one way to scale up, right? You've got to throw hardware at the problem. And that's not always cheap, it's not always effective, and it doesn't always solve the problem. The other option is to reduce scope, and nobody likes that, right? You can reduce your SKU count, you can throttle your checkout, and limit your catalog. You can actually do multiple Magento instances to try and scale up. And we don't think that's the future. We think that's the reality for right now, but we don't think that's the future. So let me kind of jump ahead, and I'm going to jump ahead several years here to where I think we belong. And that's in a brand new environment that encompasses full modularity, that we've fully decomposed all of our services, that we've got an almost poreless system, that we've got comprehensive in-process extensibility that doesn't require you to override any of our code or change any of the methods that have been written, that you're actually able to go do asynchronous and synchronous operations in process from directly within the software. This will allow us to take advantage of things like DB as a service, right, which are new capabilities that allow for systems to no longer be a bottleneck and no longer require the management overhead and incredible expertise that it takes to separate things like write-only databases from read-only databases. And it gives us two-dimensional scalability for the first time. And I want to spend a little bit of time talking about what that means, because rather than having to throw a tremendous amount of hardware at your system in order to make it performant, when we have scalable services, you're able to actually scale at the service level. And think about a merchant that does, maybe they have 30 products, maybe they have a handful of daily sales, but every now and then they start to sell 10,000 products in a minute. So these flash sale types of operations, you don't want to have to go scale up every part of Magento in order to accommodate a flash sale. What you want to do is scale checkout. And this is finally giving us the ability to get to where we can scale at a very granular level and bring incredible capabilities back to the software. We'll do all this in a cloud-native way, and we'll do it in a way that supports a multiple variety of tenancy models. Everything from federated single tenant, shared tenancy, and of course multi-tenant SaaS. So these are the architectural changes that we'll be rolling out over the next, this is probably a 3-year journey for us, to get us to a place where we're able to very quickly take advantage of microservices to improve new capabilities. We're able to take advantage of all of the unique Adobe services that are available to us, and we end up driving this incredible experience-driven commerce. When we do that, we end up delivering a tremendous amount of value, not just to the developer communities to make it easier to use and easier to implement, but merchants see very, very real value out of this, right? The ability to personalize experience, create that personable and every experience be shoppable. And along the way, we're going to optimize revenue by allowing customers to take advantage of Adobe Sensei for recommendations, to monitor business health, not just technology health, and to cost-effectively execute orders across every channel. We're going to give merchants the ability to exercise more agility than they have ever had exposure to. Everything from the very smallest of small business to gigantic enterprises running multinational websites on a single install of Magento. And we'll have a flexible and extensible platform that continues to encourage innovation. And we're going to do all of this with our best-in-class rapid time to value. And there's really only one person to thank for our ability to bring products to market as fast as we can, and that is our Magento community. The contributions of both our partners and our individual developers have made us the fastest platform in the entire world in terms of bringing new features to market, in terms of bringing change as rapidly as we can possibly consume it. And as you can see here, we've got an army of community at our backs. So in talking about community, I want to take just a second and really kind of level set on probably what are some of the biggest concerns I hear about what's happening with Adobe after the acquisition. And the first is to say that open source is here to stay. We began this journey as an open source product, and we will continue this journey as an open source product. Our commitment to the community has never been stronger than it is today. Part of what Adobe acquired when they bought Magento was this vibrant community. They're terrified of losing it, and we're not going to let it happen. So we're going to continue to make significant investments in our community ongoing, and that's going to continue to drive a tremendous amount of value. You know, together, we have already changed the world of e-commerce. And tomorrow we are going to take the next steps together to drive even more value and more innovation into this terrific product. So what else has changed? Well, a lot has changed really with Adobe, but again, we're still very much core to our initial tenet to say that we are changing the world through digital transformation. Adobe likes to say that they're changing the world through digital experiences. Well, it's not far off. One of the great things that we've seen from the Adobe acquisition is that the ownership model, going from a private equity-backed firm to a strategic acquirer firm, now supports a whole lot of growth in the businesses that are growing the fastest. And Magento is growing at a breakneck speed. So I've seen approximately 50% increase in my research and development budget. We're arraying that across literally every function in our engineering teams, growing new capabilities, expanding our sustaining engineering, expanding community engineering, as well as doubling down on product. So we're making huge investments in commerce, huge investments in order management, and continuing to refine and integrate our business intelligence product. These investments are going to drive a tremendous amount of change, and we're just now getting ramped up. I have more positions to hire than I can actually do in a short period of time. I think my average days to hire is something like 50. I have over 100 reps, so you can tell it's going to take me a little bit to get us fully ramped up. But we're ramping to a place where we'll move faster, we'll have more support for the folks in this room than we've ever been able to array before. And then one of the I guess, less good changes that we've had to go through with Adobe is in geographic alignment. I think Adobe had almost 70 or 70 plus physical locations around the world when they acquired Magento. We, of course, added a few more locations to that. And we've had to make some very, very tough decisions about what we do as a result of that geographic proliferation. And one of those is going to strike close to home, is that we've actually had to wind down the Magento presence from a physical office standpoint in Kyiv. And that's a tough pill to swallow. We have done something unprecedented from companies that I've seen in situations like this, where we have made a very, very tough offer for as many folks as possible to transition into a new location. And that's a very, very hard thing to ask anybody to do, but a testament to how much our employees value Magento, to a testament to how much they value the opportunity in front of them, not just from a personal career standpoint, from this ability to go change the world together. The vast majority have accepted that offer to relocate. And so while we will not have a physical presence in Kyiv going forward, I can promise you that our support for this community is going nowhere. And in fact, we will be back next year for MageCONF 2019. Woo! So what started here 11 years ago as almost a test project, as almost a, let's dip our toes in the water and see what we can do with an open source e-commerce product, became one of the most widely distributed products in the world. In 2017, it became the most contributed to PHP platform that this entire world has ever seen. It is an absolute incredible journey. So I'm going to welcome up to the stage in just a moment the architect behind that transition from open source distribution to open source contribution. But before I do, I want to thank you all for your time this morning. I want to thank everybody for coming out. I know it's a valuable use of your time. Thanks for coming on a Saturday. Thank you very much to our sponsors, who we would never get this done without their support and their help. I think, as Max mentioned, there is a tremendous set of content today. Please go out there, get yourself as involved as possible, and talk to one another, because I really meant what I said. You're going to learn more from each other than you'll learn from anything that we say up here on stage. So thank you again for your time. Please join me in welcoming to the stage the Director of Community Engineering, MageCONF'18.
Now I need to take ready close. Доброго ранку, Київ. Я буду розмовляти на англійській мові, тому що це ТК, і Макс сказав, що всі розмовляють англійською. So, good morning, Kyiv. My name is Max, and thanks, James. And apparently I don't have access to our Adobe designers, so I put my graphics myself, so you're not so fancy, so I apologize for it. As Jason mentioned, we did do transformation recently from, distribution open source to contribution. And it started many years ago. Even originally Magento was designed and developed as open source product, and we always honored our community. And the success of Magento was, in my opinion, and majority opinion, because of the community. Because of the community of clients, merchants, and definitely the developers. Developers are the one who brings the product to merchants and develop. And our journey was to use this opportunity, use this huge community. Not much people know, but when we started Magento 2 development, we created first develop, and we held 2 sessions. One in Austin, Texas. We called all local community members, active community members, to give our feedback about Magento developers. And second was in Berlin, which called European community, and we got feedback. And this required us to change promo how developments for a couple more years, because it was very valuable feedback. But recently we changed it completely, and we changed it last year with new ideas which Jason brought, organized community engineering. And we didn't go small, we did big. So basically we started teaming with few people, but all of them senior architects of Magento. We pulled it from a development and said, let's use in our community. And for a year and something, like in a half, more than a half, we achieved great results. And I believe, in my opinion, it was great success. Why wouldn't these things go right? But don't believe me, right? In February it was the anniversary of community engineering team, and community members started giving us feedback. And you can read it here, but there's a lot of all the different vibes coming from community about this. And one of them, and you can read what I have, but one of them is called Vinay Kohl. And it's a great guy, and he's with Magento forever, I believe. He's a trainer, he's evangelist, do Match TV, promote, educate people, but he was kind of upset at some point. And last year he was just in video, and he said if we do community engineering initiative, he would give up on Magento and do some other platform. And I think it's the biggest endorsement which you can have, from community, and saying like that's investment worth it. But what it means, and last year, Magento became #1 PHP repository in GitHub contribution. And it's, woo! Yeah. And actually, it was interesting because we were so busy trying to make easy life, how we can have contribution, how we can educate people to contribution, how we can accept it. We didn't even drag. At some point, it's some blog post which linked here appear and say like, oh, there is like big frameworks like Laravel, Symfony, they have a lot of stars, but Magenta, having less stars, had the most contribution happen. And it's created achievements which we start, and took very seriously. It means like, wow, it's something different happening. And there is no any other, I believe, commerce product or commercial product which has a lot of contribution coming from community. But let's go to numbers. There is results, and we pull a lot of statistic data trying to analyze how community happy, and this year's results, starting 1st of January, we start, collecting more and more. But for this year, by today, we have already 5,600 pull requests. And it's still changing. It's a plus here because every day we have 20 to 50 new more pull requests coming around. And it's a tremendous amount. And if you can calculate, it's like for 1 year, and it's not the end of the year yet, right? So it's going to be like about, every week we have about hundreds or even more pull requests. It means every day we need to process about 20 to 30 pull requests. If you think about what pull request is entire change, GitHub fix, or its improvements, which have significant efforts from somebody, maybe from you. We process about 3,000 issues, and it's something we changed recently. We start looking not only to developers who create products, but everyone who works with Magenta can help us. And we start using a lot of GitHub features like bots, events. When we start communicating and say like, okay, right now not only create pull requests, you can be a contributor. If you can validate the issue, you can help to check if it works or close it, or even comment. Going to help a lot because somebody posts the issue and resolution, you can help it, right? So it's about 3,000 issues was processed. And we have a lot of them every month, every day come up. So again, it's a significant amount. Again, year by today, only for this year, we don't count last year, 2 years. This year, 5,400 developers, individual contributors engage us in GitHub. It's related to including pull requests, create GitHub issue, comment on GitHub issue, but think about it, 5,400 unique people, developers, contributors working with us on GitHub. So it's amazing, and Magenta, growing and growing, and we see it's growing year over year. But we cannot do it ourselves, right? Because we don't want to be ultimatum, because we're thinking and speaking about Magenta as an open source product. We want community not only develop but own this product and decide where its direction is going. So we have 15 and plus again because we hired and growing more 15 community maintainers, which help us tremendously. We have few of them here, and you can see them in orange. Who do you saying community engineer maintainer? These guys who are not working for Magenta. But they spend tremendous amount of time in order to help to review pull requests, process pull requests, collaborate, educate, and share knowledge. So there's people who want with things more smart in community, but also nice and help and willing to help and dedicate their time with us. But majority of you working for some partner, right? Some solution integrator, and we launched last year a community engineering partners programs, and partners can have benefits out of contributing, and we're trying to engage them. And if you think about why it's happening, you're working with some client, just example, on open source product, I'm thinking about commercial product, and you face some problem, and you say, oh, it's some feature, some mission Magenta doesn't allow us to make great solution and the customer happy, and that's where community engineers stand up. You can fix, you can improve it, you can contact us, and we're going to help resolve it, put in our patch release. And your client is going to be happy, and Magenta is going to be still number one and going forward e-commerce choice for any merchant. We have contribution day. Yesterday it was one. Unfortunately, I wasn't participating, but it was 80 people. So it's a new type of event. Actually, it's not new. It's hackathon-like event. But the difference between it and why we start calling it contribution day, because we want people to come, and we're going to educate and teach them how to do contribution day. And definitely it's meet with other developers, learn from each other developers. And it became very successful. We launched first time ever, it's last year, about March in Italy, and it was 8 people joined. Yesterday was 8, so it's happening around the world. Recently it was in Brazil, Argentina, Mexico last week, in New York a couple of days ago. I'm going to Japan after it, there's going to be contribution days there. So it's going around to a bunch of in Europe. And right now I have companies who do it in their office, not even like events. So, and it's great opportunity for everyone to learn and do some contribution in the community you're working with, and put your name in front of other 5,000 developers, who annually work with this code. And it's not only Magenta, right? We have about right now 20 repositories, different projects, different repositories where you can look and contribute and things. So it's a wide opportunity for you to work, not only with have issues in Magenta 2, but other stuff, even enterprise. If you partner, we provide access to B2B code, to our proprietary code, where you also can contribute. And we have a lot of contribution coming from our partners. What it brings? Right now, in this year, we count how many commits happen in open source. And it's more than 50% of code in Magenta 2 coming from community. Now we need applause. Come on! So, recently we mentioned Adobe. There is people in Adobe who sit in Apache open source foundation. And we have I had call with them like every week, and they didn't know how it happened. They asked me how. There is no single example in a project in Apache Foundation, in Drupal, where half of code coming from open source, not a company who owns this code. And it's a significant result. Why it's 50 plus? Because again, it's changing every day. We had 58% today, I believe actual number 56%, but it's going up and down. But still, it's more than half of code in Magenta open source delivered by developers in our ecosystem, not by Magenta. But what it means, number of code differently, but there is a lot of example, and it's, as Jason mentioned, 2.3 coming later this month. Not smiling because he's going to read it. But from community, it's more than 1,000 bug fixes already merged into 2.3, delivered again by community. We have this project, multi-source inventory, and it's, Jason mentioned like end vision when we're going to future isolation, modularity, but zero agents, and we have multi-source inventory. It's already inventory which is completely isolated. Use all practice in architecture which we see in vision. So it's example, a reference module for Magenta, which want to reflect how Magenta going to look next year, in 2 years, in 3 years. We're going to keep working, but it's helped more than about 10 or 15% of the entire code base is multi-source narrative delivered completely by community. And there is going to be talk. I encourage you to go listen about multi-source narrative because there is again not any example in an entire GitHub ecosystem where such a big project was developed by community. And it's very complex one. We also have a lot of stuff delivered by community when they approach us and say, like, guys, there is Magenta Commerce or Enterprise having some features which doesn't make sense to have on Enterprise only. It's like per se already standard for every platform. And for example, Elasticsearch and message queue was moved by community members from Enterprise to open source. We have a bunch of import-export improvements going around. So again, community members stand up and say, guys, there is a lot of stuff to be done and changed, and they put backlog and start executing delivery. I have already a bunch of these improvements. Bulk and ACID API, and I know there is a representative from Balance Internet and Combrab. It's an amazing example when our partners stand up and did a lot of improvements. And briefly on it, early this year, 2 companies, Balance Internet located its headquarters in Melbourne, Sydney, and I know guys here standing from Ukraine, and Combrab in Germany. They use Magenta API to update 1,000 products per day. And in Magenta 2.2, it brings to database logs and some challenges. Some of them create own solution using NS support, which doesn't make sense. And they call and say, Max, let's work on community journey, let's do these improvements because it's have to be changed in Magenta. Because API needs to have support of asynchronous updates. And we gather it, and these guys deliver it. In 2.3, we have huge improvements in API using async. It also brings message to moving to open source to make it happen, but it's an amazing example which I always share. The same instance purchase. Who doesn't know is one-click checkout, which Amazon followed patent for many years. This year, in summer, their patent expired. Next day, Creativity, one of the partners in the United States, submitted pull request this feature in Magenta. So just think about how big difference, how a product evolved, from people who use it, not from Magenta. And I believe, I don't know if we would consider, this instance purchase ourselves, because nobody remembers patent expired. So community stand up that there is feature. It's already created, we merged it, and it's right now 2.3, and we believe 2.2. Two-factor authentication reCAPTCHA, there is the recovery can pass as mesh specialist. So we had to have improvements in security, and there is already a model. So he shares the report, he spent our time, they improve it, and we merge it, and right now, to a fair capture, also delivered by community in a core part of the core distribution. GraphQL, huge project going right now with new API. So again, we invite community to help to develop it. And hundreds more improvements. And that's what I call the power of this community. So right now, you, as developer, drive the direction of Magenta. You do a lot of changes. You make this product #1 product in our ecosystem. And there is one senior guy in one of the partners company who's the sales. And we were sitting with him and talking about how his company contributed, and they were a big contributor. And we talked with them and asked him, what do you think about this contribution? And he said, it's a perfect sales pitch. Because right now, when they have customers who are trying to consider a platform and say, oh, Magenta doesn't do this, there is no way you can say, oh, we can build it and we can make it part of the core. And that's what I see, power of community. And all of you part of it, and I'm very glad you guys are here. We have this event, and I'm going to repeat what Jason said. Talk with Shazza, talk with this Magenta team, go to this share of knowledge and say just hi. And I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Max. Thank you, Jason. Thank you very much, guys. Спасибо большое нашим первым выступающим. Еще раз спасибо большое вам. Буквально два предложения. Номер один – это в ваших сумках есть чудные фидбэк-формы, опять же, как я говорю, что мы думаем о том, что вы думаете о нашем мероприятии и очень сильно хотим улучшаться. Это очередное мероприятие. Мы будем в Украине в следующем году. Поэтому, пожалуйста, ребята, заполняйте фидбэк-формы, которые вы в конце мероприятия сможете принять на отличные талончики на автопарке. И номер два, я хочу сказать огромное спасибо нашим спонсорам. Ребята, это первая платная конференция, которую мы сделали с 2010 года. У нас получилось, мы не зарабатываем на этом, это просто, чтобы сделать вам немножечко уютнее быть в этих залах, иметь возможность пригласить каких-то спикеров. Огромное спасибо нашим спонсорам. У нас есть спонсоры представлены в коридорах, пообщайтесь с ними. У них есть интересные темы для вас, интересные возможности. Общайтесь между собой. Спасибо большое. София!
Thank you, everybody, and the speakers. Maxim has just said that in your black bags you've got feedback forms. So if you could just fill them in and you can exchange them for a token to visit our after party. And another thing, Maxim has said big thank you to all our sponsors. This is the first conference which is a paid conference, and since 2010, Magenta has been a free event. We're very grateful to all those who have made their contribution and who have sponsored the event. The sponsors are in the halls, and if you can just stop and chat with them, they've got interesting things to talk about, so feel free. Thank you very much, and enjoy your day.